Stay with me tonight. Let me speak to your heart. Stay with me tonight. Not because I need company, not because the silence feels heavy, but because there are moments when the noise of the world finally drops low enough for truth to be heard without interruption. This is one of those moments. I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm asking you to pause with me, to stop scrolling, to stop anticipating the next thing, to sit in a stillness long enough for something honest to surface. The kind of honesty that doesn't rush or perform, the kind that doesn't demand agreement. It just exists. Tonight isn't about distraction, it's about presence. I know you're good at moving forward, at keeping momentum, at managing everything that comes at you without letting it slow you down. You've learned how to stay functional even when things inside you feel unresolved. That skill has served you well. But it's also taught you to keep your heart quiet when it wants to speak. That's why I'm here, not to fix anything, not to ask for answers, just to speak to your heart, not your defenses. You don't need to be strong right now. Strength is useful, but it's not always necessary. Tonight isn't asking you to hold anything together. It's asking you to let go of the effort of doing so, to let your thoughts arrive without organizing them, to let emotions exist without labeling them immediately. I've noticed that when people slow down, they often feel uncomfortable at first. Silence feels unfamiliar when you're used to movement. Stillness feels exposed when you're used to control, but underneath that discomfort is something gentler, something steady. That's what I want you to feel tonight. I'm not here to impress you with words. I'm here to offer clarity without pressure, to let you hear something without needing to respond. Because sometimes the most meaningful conversations don't require dialogue, they require space. You don't have to explain yourself here. You don't have to justify how you feel or why. You don't have to decide anything by the end of this. Tonight is not a deadline. It's an invitation to rest inside your own awareness. I know you've been carrying more than you admit, not dramatically, not visibly, quietly. You've been holding your emotions in a way that keeps things efficient, keeps relationships smooth, keeps expectations manageable. That composure is impressive, but it's also tiring tonight. You don't need to be impressive. You don't need to be certain. You don't need to be optimistic. You don't need to know what comes next. Just stay. Stay with the feeling of being here, with the recognition that nothing is being demanded of you in this moment, that you're allowed to exist without managing outcomes. I want to speak to your heart because your heart understands things. Your mind tries to optimize away. Your heart doesn't rush. It doesn't multitask. It doesn't pretend. It knows what feels aligned and what feels forced. Listen to it tonight. If something feels heavy, you don't have to push it aside. Let it be noticed. If something feels calm, you don't have to question it. Let it settle. Not everything meaningful arrives as excitement. Some things arrive as relief. Relief that you don't have to keep moving to be worthy of attention. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust the quiet part of yourself that rarely gets uninterrupted time. The part that doesn't speak in urgency or fear. The part that doesn't argue. It simply knows when something feels right. That part of you has been patient. Stay with me tonight, not because you need answers, but because you deserve space. Space where nothing is being extracted from you. Space where you're not being evaluated. Space where presence is enough. You might notice your breathing slow, your shoulders soften, your thoughts lose their edge. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when pressure leaves the system. Pressure isn't motivation, it's interference, and tonight, interference isn't necessary. I don't want to fill this moment with promises or conclusions. I want to let it remain open. Open moments are where honesty lies. They don't tell you what to think. They let you notice what's already there. If your heart wants to say something, let it. If it wants to stay quiet, respect that too. Silence isn't absence. Sometimes it's understanding without language. Stay with me tonight because not everything meaningful needs to be loud. Some connections form in stillness. Some truths emerge when nothing is trying to pull your attention elsewhere. This isn't about escaping the world. It's about returning to yourself briefly, without judgment, without urgency, without performance. And if you're listening to this and something feels different, calmer, steadier, more grounded, that's not an accident. It means you allowed yourself to stay long enough for your nervous system to recognize safety. Safety doesn't thrill. It steadies. Before you move on, before you let the world rush back in, take one more moment just to acknowledge that you stayed, that you listened, that you gave yourself permission to pause. If this moment spoke to you, take a second to like this video, not for me, but to mark that you were here. If you value conversations that don't rush you, subscribe. And if something tonight touched you quietly, leave a comment, even a simple one. Sometimes staying is the most powerful choice you can make. As the night continues, I'm not asking you to hold on to anything I've said. I'm asking you to notice what happens when you don't rush away from it. There's a difference between listening and staying. Listening can be passive. Staying requires intention. And tonight, intention is all that matters. You might feel the urge to distract yourself, to check something, to scroll, to mentally move on. That instinct isn't random. It's what happens when stillness gets close to something real. The mind looks for motion when the heart starts to feel exposed. If that urge appears, don't fight it, just notice it. Let it pass without acting on it. That pause is where truth begins to surface. You don't often give yourself nights like this, nights where nothing needs to be solved, where no progress is expected, where you're not preparing for tomorrow or repairing yesterday. Most of your time is spent moving between responsibilities, decisions, expectations. Tonight is different. Tonight is about being without direction for a moment. That can feel unfamiliar, sometimes even uncomfortable, but discomfort doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means you've stopped numbing yourself with momentum. I want to speak to your heart because your heart carries things your mind keeps postponing, not because the mind is wrong, but because it's busy. It prioritizes function, efficiency, outcomes. The heart isn't concerned with any of that. It notices alignment. It notices when something feels settled or strained. That's why I'm asking you to slow down. You've learned how to be composed, how to keep emotions organized, how to stay grounded, even when things feel uncertain. Those are skills and they've helped you survive. But skills aren't meant to be active all the time. Even strength needs rest to remain strength. Tonight is rest, not sleep presence. You don't need to convince yourself that everything is okay. You don't need to reach any conclusion before this ends. Just let the moment hold you without expectation. Let the silence do some of the work you've been doing alone for too long. I know you're used to carrying things quietly. You don't announce when something weighs on you. You manage it internally so it doesn't spill into the world. That discipline has earned you respect, but it's also taught people that you don't need much space. Tonight, take that space anyway. There's nothing selfish about that. Space isn't something you take from others. It's something you return to yourself. And when you do, you might notice emotions that have been waiting patiently, not demanding attention, just waiting to be acknowledged. Acknowledgement is enough. You don't need to analyze what comes up. You don't need to label it or fix it. Let it exist without commentary. Let it breathe without being optimized. The heart doesn't speak in complete sentences. It speaks in sensations, pauses, shifts. Listen for those. Stay with me tonight. Not because I have answers, but because I'm not trying to pull you anywhere. I'm not leading you toward decision or a feeling. I'm staying exactly where you are without agenda. That's rare. Most conversations are transactional. They ask something of you. They want response, agreement, movement. This one doesn't. It's here to remind you that presence without demand still exists. You don't have to be interesting right now. You don't have to be insightful. You don't have to be okay. You can be quiet without disappearing. You can be still without being stuck. You can be present without being productive. That permission matters more than advice ever could. I want you to notice your breathing again, not to control it, just to notice it. Notice how it changes when you stop trying to manage the moment. Notice how your body responds when it realizes nothing is being asked of it. That response is honesty. Honesty doesn't always arrive as emotion. Sometimes it arrives as calm, sometimes as heaviness, sometimes it's nothing at all. All of those are valid. None of them need to be rushed through. Stay. Stay long enough for your nervous system to recognize that this moment isn't a test. It's not asking you to prove anything. It's not measuring your reaction. It's simply offering a place to land. You've been landing hard for a long time, jumping from one responsibility to the next without ever fully touching the ground. Tonight, let yourself land gently. Let your thoughts come and go without following them. Let your heart speak without demanding clarity. Let the moment pass through you instead of over you. I'm not here to leave an impression. I'm here to leave you lighter, not because something was taken away, but because something was finally allowed to rest. If you feel nothing, that's okay. If you feel something, that's okay too. This isn't about achieving a state, it's about allowing one. Stay with me tonight because the world will ask things from you again soon. Tomorrow will come with its questions, its pace, its noise. But right now, none of that matters. Right now, you're allowed to exist without direction. If this moment helped you slow down even slightly, take a second to like this video. If you want more spaces like this, subscribe. And if something tonight settled quietly inside you, leave a comment, even a simple one. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is stay without trying to turn the moment into anything else. As the night deepens, something else begins to happen. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually. The quiet you allowed earlier doesn't feel empty anymore. It starts to feel intentional, like a space you chose instead of one you fell into. You're not waiting for anything now. You're not listening for a conclusion or a takeaway. You're just here. And being here without pressure is unfamiliar enough that your body is still adjusting. That's okay. Adjustment doesn't mean resistance. It means something new is being learned. You might notice that your thoughts slow, but they don't disappear. They drift in and out without urgency. You're not chasing them, and they're not chasing you. That balance is rare. Most nights, your mind is either racing ahead or replaying what already happened. Tonight, it's simply moving at the same pace as you. That's alignment. I want to speak to your heart now, not by adding more meaning, but by staying with the simplicity of this moment. Hearts don't open because they're convinced. They open because they feel safe enough to stop bracing. Safety isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's recognized through the absence of threat. Notice how your shoulders feel. Notice your jaw. Notice the way you're sitting or lying down. These small details carry information. They tell you whether you've been holding more than you realized. They tell you how often you've stayed ready to respond, to react, to move without ever fully resting. You don't need to correct anything. You've been strong in ways that don't show. Strong in the sense of staying composed when you wanted to retreat. Strong in the sense of continuing when stopping felt impossible. That kind of strength doesn't get celebrated because it doesn't look dramatic, but it leaves marks. Tonight isn't about removing those marks. It's about letting them soften, about allowing yourself to exist without holding posture, without maintaining a version of yourself that's optimized for the world. You don't need to impress the night. Stay with me a little longer. When you stay, even when nothing is happening, your system learns something valuable. That presence doesn't have to be earned. You don't have to deserve rest. You don't have to justify stillness. You don't have to prove you've done enough today. You might feel a moment of sadness surface, not sharp, not overwhelming, just a recognition of how long it's been since you allowed yourself this kind of pause. That sadness isn't loss. It's awareness catching up. Let it be there without naming it. You don't need to heal anything. Tonight. Healing isn't a task. It's what happens when you stop interfering with yourself. I know you're used to moving forward, to setting goals, to looking for direction, but tonight doesn't need direction. It needs permission. Permission to let time pass without assigning it value. That's harder than it sounds. I'm not trying to guide you anywhere. I'm staying where you are without expectation, without agenda. That steadiness matters. When someone doesn't pull you toward an outcome, your heart stops guarding itself. Guarding is tiring. You've guarded long enough. If you feel your breathing deepen or your body sink slightly, that's not coincidence. That's your nervous system recognizing that it doesn't have to stay alert right now. Alertness has been your default. Rest is not. But rest doesn't weaken you. You don't need to decide anything about your life tonight. You don't need to resolve questions or plan changes. Tonight is not a turning point. It's a resting point, a place where nothing is being extracted from you. Those places are rare. Stay with me tonight because this moment is teaching you something without words, that you can exist without effort and still be okay, that nothing falls apart when you stop managing it. That silence doesn't mean absence. Silence can mean understanding. If thoughts arise about tomorrow or yesterday, let them pass like weather. You don't have to chase clarity. Clarity arrives when the noise settles on its own. I'm not asking you to feel anything specific. Whatever you feel or don't feel is valid. This isn't a performance. It's a pause, and pauses, when chosen, are powerful. Before the night moves on, notice one thing you're grateful for. Not because gratitude is expected, but because it grounds you in what's real. Something simple, something present. Hold it gently, then let it go. If you're still here and staying even for a few minutes is an act of self-respect in a world that constantly pulls you away from yourself. If this part of the night felt meaningful, take a moment to like this video. If you want more moments like this, subscribe. And if staying with yourself tonight felt new, Leave a comment, even a simple one. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is stay long enough for your heart to remember it. Doesn't need permission to rest. As the night continues, you may notice that staying no longer feels like effort. At first, staying required intention. You had to choose not to leave the moment. Now something quieter is happening. You're not holding yourself here anymore. You're simply here. That shift matters. It means your body has stopped asking whether this moment is safe. It has stopped scanning for reasons to move on. It has stopped preparing for interruption. When that happens, time feels different. It stretches without pressure. It moves without urgency. You're no longer counting it. This is where the heart speaks most clearly, not with words, but with recognition. You might notice memory drifting through, not the loud ones, not the dramatic ones, small moments, ordinary scenes, things you haven't thought about in a long time. They arrive gently without demand. That's how memory behaves when it isn't being forced into meaning. Let them pass. You don't need to analyze why they showed up. You don't need to connect them into a story. Tonight isn't about narrative. It's about allowing your inner world to move freely without being organized. You've spent a long time organizing yourself, organizing expectations. That organization made you capable. It also made you tired. Tonight. Notice how different it feels when you don't have to arrive at an insight, when there's no conclusion, waiting at the end of the silence. Most of the time, we rush through moments because we think they need to lead somewhere. But some moments exist simply to recalibrate you. This is one of those moments. You might feel a subtle resistance appear, an impulse to do something productive with this time, to turn it into reflection, growth, or understanding. That impulse is familiar. It's how you've learned to justify rest. You don't need to justify it tonight. Rest doesn't require productivity. Presence doesn't require purpose. You're allowed to be here without improving anything. I know that idea can feel strange. You're used to motion, used to contributing, used to being used. Stillness can feel like you're wasting something, but you're not wasting time. You're recovering it. Recovery and tension, recovering sensitivity, recovering the part of you that doesn't live in response mode. You might notice how your inner dialogue has softened. The voice that usually critiques or plans or assesses is quieter now, not gone, just resting. That voice works hard. It deserves pauses too. This is what happens when no one is asking you for anything. You're not being evaluated. You're not being measured. You're not being compared. You're simply present. Presence reveals things without pressure. It lets you feel what's true without magnifying it. If there's calm, you notice it. If there's heaviness, you notice that too. Neither needs fixing. Both are allowed to exist as they are. That allowance is rare. Most spaces ask you to regulate yourself for others, to stay composed, to stay appropriate, to stay functional. Tonight doesn't ask that. Tonight only asks you to remain where you are. Stay with me, not because I'm holding you here, but because nothing is pulling you away. You might realize that you've been living slightly ahead of yourself for a long time. Always preparing, always anticipating, always bracing for the next thing. That forward lean becomes so familiar you forget what it feels like to stand upright. This moment brings you back into alignment, not backwards, not forwards. Here you don't need to solve anything about your life tonight. You don't need to confront anything. You don't need to make sense of what you're feeling. Understanding will come later. Nator, ally without effort. Understanding that's force doesn't last. Understanding that arrives after rest does. Let this be rest. Notice how your body responds when it's allowed to stop performing. How tension releases in places you didn't realize were tight. How your breathing deepens without instruction. How your thoughts become less sharp. This isn't something you have to practice, not to extend the moment, but to fully inhabit it. To let your nervous system memorize this state. To remind yourself that it exists and that you